The Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions will come to order. And let me begin by thanking all of our panelists for being here for what will be a
ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, a ton of news about stimulus payments, a ton of news is here for you on stimulus checks. Joe Biden can do something about this. First of all, let's get into the most important news. It's that Social Security benefits, no matter what, play a major role for your retirement and for the older Americans especially. Now, there could be big changes on the horizon. Social Security is facing a shortfall. A shortfall that could be catastrophic, that is. The program is paying out more in benefits than it's receiving from taxes. If lawmakers don't find a solution soon, things could get nasty. There are several proposals on the table. Social Security benefits are funded primarily through payroll taxes. Workers pay into the program now, and the most of the money is paid out to retirees. So let's not forget about that right now, though. These taxes are not even enough to pay out benefits in full. Just to cover Social Security, it has been dipping into its trust funds.
We'll have to start thinking about, at least, the looming debt limit deadline. Democrats' message: political brinksmanship could drive up costs for ordinary households. A recent analysis by the center-left think tank Third Way estimated that an actual default could result in the loss of 3 million jobs, a $20,000 drop in the average retirement savings, and a $130,000 increase in the cost of a mortgage. And Republicans argue this is all fear-mongering. House Budget Committee Chairman Jody Arrington tweeted, "Democrats and Republicans must seize this opportunity to rein in unsustainable spending and reorient the nation's fiscal trajectory before it is too late." Now, top Senate Republican Mitch McConnell was confident yesterday that the country would not face a financial crisis.
In the end, I think the important thing to remember is that America must never default on its debt. It never has and never will. But we'll end up in some kind of negotiation with the administration over what.
So both Democratic and Republican lawmakers, everybody, are negotiating on Americans receiving universal basic income payments. This is some good news. It has been announced up to $18,000 may be claimed by several people that are experiencing financial difficulties. So if you qualify for this extra stimulus check, be sure to watch this entire video because you definitely don't want to miss out on it. So the past 3 round stimulus checks have been given to people, and more and more Americans are feeling the need for universal basic income. But many lawmakers in certain states and cities are getting used to this idea. Universal basic income is a set of recurring payments that individuals get from the government. These can be paid out every month, several times a year, or just once annually. Now, this is an idea that entrepreneur Andrew Yang, who recently left the Democratic Party, centered his 2020 presidential campaign around. Now, the good news is that states across the country are beginning to implement their own relief plans that include sending out state relief payments. For a while now, Alaska has been giving its citizens checks under the Alaska Permanent Fund. The fund, which has been around since 1982, was designed to provide state residents, citizens, with a portion of state oil revenues. The Sovereign Wealth Fund pays out annual dividends to eligible citizens. To qualify, you must be an Alaska resident for at least a year, and you're not eligible for this if you've been convicted. Last year's payment went out to 643,000 citizens in Alaska. That totaled around $1,200 per person. The highest payout occurred in 2008 when the payment was around $2,000. Now more money is headed into the pockets of thousands of people who live in Chicago. The Chicago City Council yesterday approved a multi-million-dollar budget, which includes hundreds of dollars for thousands of households in the Windy City. This makes it the largest basic income pilot program in the United States. To qualify, individuals must earn less than $35,000 per year. Participants will be chosen by random. That means you can't apply yourself. Now, the money for this plan is provided under Biden's American Rescue Plan. The passage comes a day after LA announced its program to help thousands of families in the city. The Chicago program is meant to relieve the financial burden on families affected by the crisis. Hundreds of thousands of people in Chicago lost their jobs during the first 6 months of the crisis, and about 18% of people living in Chicago are below the federal poverty line. The mayor told people on Twitter that, growing up, I knew what it felt like to live check to check. When you're in need, every bit of income helps. I definitely believe that more cities across the country should do the same thing and help out American people with more stimulus payments. If you guys agree with that, tell me in the comments down below. We have a ton of good news, but guys, do you think that President Biden can send out the forward stimulus payments? And to be honest with you, I really believe that President Biden has to do something about the crazy cost of living. The rising cost of gas, groceries, and even food. And the only way to do this is for President Biden to send out the forward stimulus check of $2,000 or even $1,400. President Biden has to send out stimulus before the end of the year, before things get a lot worse next year for so many of you guys. And I'm on your team here, everybody. I'm doing all that it takes. I'm doing all the research it takes to find the most up-to-date, reliable stimulus check information. I will always do my best in providing you guys with the most important stimulus news, Social Security updates, stimulus check updates, and a relief check payment update that you have to know. This channel is where it is at. I will always do my best in providing you guys with the most up-to-date and reliable stimulus news. So be sure to continue watching if you want the most up-to-date, reliable stimulus check information. First of all, the Supplemental Poverty Measure. This is another form of stimulus checks, everybody. It began back in 2009 and takes into account certain non-cash government assistance, tax credits, and needed expenses. The supplemental poverty rate for children was the lowest on record since the measure began, and without the enhanced child tax credit, the rate would have only fallen to 9%. And some 5 million people were lifted out of poverty because of this credit. This credit is similar to a stimulus check and is something that you guys should take care of. And overall, the supplemental poverty rate was 7.8% for 2021. That's down from 9.2% a year earlier. The reduction in poverty, however, will likely be short-lived since the beefed up credit was only in effect for 2021. Now, the supplemental rate compares with the official poverty rate, which was only 11% overall in 2021. Now, this official poverty rate for children was 15%, and also the poverty rate among the elderly rose 10% as well. This is likely because a larger share is on fixed incomes, everybody, that are not keeping up with the pace with inflation. As we can all see, the major problem here in America is inflation, and stimulus checks are the only way that people can help out. Now, this is likely because a larger share is fixed on incomes that are not keeping up with inflation, and still, Social Security has kept 26 million people, the majority of them senior citizens, out of poverty. So it's an important bill. Also, median household income in 2021 was $70,000, and not statistically different than a year earlier, even as inflation started to soar last year. This follows a 2.9% decline in median income in 2020, the first year of the crisis and the first statistically significant drop since 2011. So while the overall number of workers didn't change, the number of full-time, year-round workers included and increased by 11 million. However, inflation-adjusted median earnings, this means inflation checks, of those workers decreased 4%. So the supplemental poverty measure has taken on increased important measures in the recent years, particularly when Congress decided to send out multiple stimulus bills in 2020. So as part of this American Rescue Plan that President Biden signed, Congress enhanced the first child tax credit for 1 year. To be eligible to receive the stimulus card benefits, you must be a Chicago resident and have a valid city sticker for your vehicle. Now, data provided by the City of Chicago suggests that the median household income for a family of 4 is $93,000. According to local Chicago news stations, 75% of these cards will prioritize residents in community areas that have higher mobility hardship, while the remaining 25% will be distributed citywide. Now, costly gasoline prices could hamper the United States' economic recovery if it continues. So central is the price of fuel to the household budgets for millions of people. However, with an influence of factors sparking the recent price increase, a quick remedy seems unlikely.